Now we'll be hearing from Mr. Roque Calero Perez and his presentation on sustainability in the Canary Islands from a holistic perspective.
Nos acompaña para ello el profesor y catedrático.
The professor and university teacher from the Mechanical Engineering Department of the University of Las Palmas de Gran Canaria, Roque Calero Perez, will be joining us throughout this presentation. He is a well-known figure here in the Canary Islands, deeply linked to multiple processes led to the proper management of water, of energy. He also worked on the institution responsible for managing water in the islands. He works with real-life projects, has worked in over 100 projects. In fact, he has also authored around 40 books, 60 articles, 52 presentations, amongst many other examples. He's also a well-known figure for all African neighbors. Through his academic career, he has done everything possible. Has been a director of his department, also a member of the social council of different clusters and commissions. He's worked with the University of Las Palmas de Gran Canaria and has also worked as a representative of that university in his home island. He's also worked on different articles about sustainable scope for projects in the in the Canary Islands. He's also worked on the Biosphere Reserve of Lanzarote and many more examples that make him one of the very interesting person to listen to. And now, without further ado, you have the floor. Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for having me. Today I would like to talk about what Michael explained to us this morning. Some of those questions he shared at the end, most of them have already found their answers, at least here in the Canary Islands. The only thing we are missing is the political drive. We have the necessary resources, but we need the necessary policies. As we are quite outdated on this level, what we try to do is for our youth to become more involved, to engage our youth within our projects. So I'm quite thankful from our audience, as there are many young people, maybe not as many as in the previous session, but still there are, and you are key in this process. I hope this won't be the last meeting that we will be holding on this account. I hope that I can now come to explain to you what we've been carrying out throughout the last 15 years here in the Canary Islands. I want to explain it to everyone here, but most of all to our youth, people who are studying at universities. You don't need to move abroad to find your future. You can find it here in the islands, and this is a positive message I would like you to take back home. Well, I have only 15 minutes, so I've tried to redesign my presentation so it won't last too long. Well, I don't know what's happening, but let's see. How does this work? Okay, there it is. So, the sustainability of the Canary Islands from a holistic perspective. So, these two gentlemen who invited me to come and join you today mentioned about this global landscape and how the Canary Islands are an exception within the biggest within this setting. So in a global context of environmental crisis and socioeconomic challenges, exploring the borders of sustainability, the limits in the Canary Islands, is essential to redefine the future of the archipelago. Our goal 1, analyze the specific challenges facing the Canary Islands in terms of sustainability, and last but not least, addressing sustainability from a holistic perspective, combining environmental, economic, social, resource availability, and underlying values for a more holistic view of development in the Canary Islands. That was the previous slide. Let's now continue into the next. Is the sound alright? Yes, is it? Okay. I can't share too many details. I don't know if I can share this presentation with you. If I may, then I don't need to add many more explanations. But you need to know that there is a scarcity, there is a crisis, a climate crisis by which we are affected completely. There are many crises, economic, social, inequalities, climate change. All these crises are affecting us 100%. That's why you have on the right the different consequences that we'll be facing here in the Canary Islands. And what's the current situation? We have 2.4 million people, probably will have by 2030, which is a lot. Low qualification of the local population, poorly adapted, a low level of research and development, and this is also poorly adapted. Also have a high overall unemployment rate and absolute dependence on fossil fuels to produce electricity, drinking water, mobility, up to 85%. We also have an abandonment of the primary sector with importation of more than 70% of food, low weight of the industrial sector and advanced services, excessive dependence on the tourism sector, heavily dependent on uncontrollable external situations, excessive management, weight and poor governance. That leaves much to be desired. We also have the services to the population which are strongly threatened for the future, like healthcare, education, social support, amongst others. And we also have this widespread confusion in the population due to the continuous tendencies of political, business and social decision makers. There's a lack of vision for the youth too of another more dignified and sustainable future. There's a lack of this vision. So the alternative to the current unsustainable model of the Canary Islands, here we can see what not to do and what is to be done. What we shouldn't do is base the future on monoculture. We have done so in the past with bananas, with tomatoes, with other sorts of crops, and now we're doing the same with tourism. What is missing here in the Canary Islands is a vision of a future, to know where we're going and to aim for it. We can see that there are benefits, these tax advantages for attracting people. But that's not the path to be followed. We're also basing our future on insurance via agricultural export subsidies. We're also basing the future on securing indefinite economic transfer based on our capital inability to compete in a global world. Will we always be looking at Brussels to get the necessary help? Should we just be sitting around and hoping that there won't be a catastrophe, a disaster happening, to wait impassively for an internal disaster not to occur in the vital energy and water systems, much less using the traditional resource of emigration? Imagine an absolute disaster just to wait and sit around for someone else to deal with the things we could do ourselves. So what we need to do, what is to be done, which you can see on the list on the right side, is to achieve maximum self-sufficiency in core resources for survival, like energy, water, food, and habitat. We need a deep change in the education and research and development system. We need to promote multiple small and medium-sized actions in our sectors, SMEs, diversifying our economy with positive synergistic effects among all of them that allow overcoming the structural employment problems that weigh on the economy of the Canary Islands. Two big companies are not enough. We also need to promote a shift towards the sustainability of the tourist sector, favoring a positive impact on the entire economy and society of the Canary Islands. I would love to explain how to achieve this. but I won't have enough time this afternoon. We also need to turn the Canary Islands into a focus of centrality in the achievement of a sustainable tri-continent development. Right now, the government of the Canary Islands has this project, Canary Islands, Africa. But in fact, it could grow even more into Canary Islands, Africa, and America. We could be the first tri-continental hub. We could have people, students, come and join us from all of these parts of the world. And we also want to correct the governments, and I know, I've talked with Baltasar about it, it's difficult to correct governance and plan all changes in a framework to achieve comprehensive long-term sustainable development. And last but not least, to fix these internal vulnerabilities of some islands in the short term, for example, a power supplying plant just not being able to continue functioning due to an accident and the whole island losing power for days. Okay, so a holistic and complete strategic plan to drive the Canary Island sustainability. In order to save the Canary Island situation, it has to work out with an authentic strategy plan for sustainable development. It needs to make sense. And it needs to be on long term. It cannot keep changing with every new government takes charge. So it needs to allow to achieve maximum possible sustainability. It has to be holistic, and as I was saying, it needs to be completed quickly and cannot be left at the mercy of traditional system of governance. Now, this integral holistic strategic development plan, Sustainability has to be a development instrument for the Canary Islands, and we will be looking at it now. So, please let me know if I'm running out of time. But firstly, let us look at the definition by the United Nations. We need to satisfy the needs of current generations and future generations. We need to cover their needs and also protect their ecosystems. Our society is not just the environment, but it's everything that can be found within it. We have found 27 human needs. If we cover all of these, the Canary Islands are on a sustainability path. The 2030 agenda says that we have to protect the oceans. Okay? Well, we will focus on the people, that we cover all their needs from all the people here. Well, I don't have enough time. What we did is we transformed those needs into the different parts of our sustainable development model. We have 27 parts to this model. We have 12, all of them can be modified, and they're also interlinked. Energy, water, primary production of food, as industrial food production would be within the industrial scope, and housing, as well as urbanism and landscape protection. How much time do I have left? 5 minutes? Okay, let's continue. Then we also have this human capital. We also have minery, commerce, transport, different types of transport. People also have a need for quality of life. So we look at education, support, social support for the most vulnerable people within all societies, also safety and healthcare. And of course, we also need to work on the conservation of our natural ecosystem. We can't just expect to plan everything as if it were a colony on Mars. We have neighbors here, and we need to follow a path to solidarity. We have to share and look out for neighbors, but also for people who are farther away. We need an efficient public administration. It needs to work. Policymakers, lawmakers, and also judges and lawyers, they need to be working efficiently. And last but not least, when we look at the solidarity, at the governance axis, we need to also take into account the social. We need to have a world where families, households, social activities, and there is also social cohesion. We need to also have a balanced economy with economic activity. However, when we hear that a lawmaker, or in this case, a policymaker, can create employment, well, that's not true at all. You can't create work or employment through a new rule. We need bigger changes to be made. Let's now take a look at energy. How's that working for the different parts of the world? Well, we have a theory on that. We look at the global sustainability framework, then we look at the external regulatory frameworks of influence, and the internal regulatory frameworks, what the EU says and what the United Nations says about what Spain says. In the case of the Canary Islands, we need to also look into what needs we have here within our islands and what resources we have. Do we have a superavit, an excess, or do we have a lack of energy? Here we have some quite sensible parts, and through that we create these 27 axes. So we have the strategies and the measures. We have two groups for measures. We have those where we learn through project, through research, and then we have the executive part. We can't execute something without knowing about it beforehand. We have seen many examples of projects that have been a complete failure because they haven't contributed really. We also need to understand how much time something takes, how much money, and last but not least, the success index, and understand how many resources, how much human capital we have to invest to achieve the next step. So here you can see that the last step is the consensus plan. In Valsequillo, we already presented this project, and I must say that the result was amazing. People really participated. All political representatives came over and told us they really liked it. Well, let's now end up with this holistic planning. I've analyzed here tourism because it's the sector with which we work the most. But truth be told, all of these needs I stated before are linked with tourism and vice versa. So these needs could be affecting the touristic sector. But if we improve the touristic sector, it will also improve our means to cover all these needs. It seems like we're quite individualistic, but in fact, we're holistically thinking about everyone, and we need to use this method and be more aware of that. And here we have the introduction, as I was saying, the content of the theory. Then we have the regulatory frameworks in which the Canary Islands tourism sector operates, the operational framework affecting the tourism sector in the Canary Islands, then the diagnosis of the impacts as an internal diagnosis of our sector, and then we see what needs we might need to cover. The internal touristic sector is linked to all other axes. So we need to look at the water management, energy production, Then we need to understand the external actions to be taken in all the axes to improve the sustainability of the Canary Islands tourism sector. Then we look at the sector internal diagnosis of current sustainability, internal actions, then the multi-sectoral internal diagnosis of the current sustainability, then the multi-sectoral internal actions, diagnosis of the impacts, and then actions in the tourism sector, then improve the sustainability in all axes in the Canary Islands. The result will be a vision of the sector. So, and I'm reaching the end of my presentation. The positive aspects of this model is that it allows the transformation of the sector from a sustainable situation to a sustainable one, a non-traumatic, possible, sensible way from new perspectives. It allows such transformation to be carried out at different scales. It allows to relate the sector with a large number of decisions in scattered fields so that the results present positive synergies for the Canary Islands. It allows to open new expectations and new ways of public and private collaboration. And it allows to define a wide portfolio of jobs that generate qualified employment in the Canary Islands and promote the utilization of funds for its subsequent execution, which is especially interesting for our youth here. It also facilitates the provision of funds, public and private. That's what my experience tells me from working in Gran Canaria. All the projects that we presented would be accepted. However, those that wouldn't have one of these global goals, well-thought goals, wouldn't be accepted. Also, it allows, due to its structure, transparency and methodology, a new form of citizen participation in the elaboration of the future of the sector, because everyone is invited to participate. It also allows the sector to become a pillar of holistic sustainable development for the Canary Islands. Maybe we have a table with 4 legs, and one of them would be tourism. However, if that leg is too big, then that table will not be usable. So we need to find a way for it to be more balanced. This was brief, but I hope that it was usable for you. And I really want to leave you with this message that there is a solution for things, and you are the people who can make that change possible. Thank you. Thank you, Professor. I was with him actually in 1993 in La Palma, where he already mentioned many of the things he explained today. And I think about what Fernando said, we shouldn't lose optimism. We shouldn't lose hope. That's something we have to share with our students, with our youth. We shouldn't vilify tourism, but we have to think about the regenerative coordinates, how to have this sustained development, as Professor Roque Calero said. And we have to create islands